So we talk about ratings, like why you do ratings, how they work, why they work, and how you can use them to get really great business results. So what I'm going to go through is a little bit of the theory behind it, and then also I have a pretty interesting example of how ratings are used in HR, in recruiting. CHR conference, figured that was a good idea. But it's kind of like everything is rated these days, right? This is our banana slicer rating. The one I love on the bottom is, but my banana is bent the other way. So you actually get stuff, this is a joke, but you do get stuff like that. So, you know, it's, you have to, it's a little subjective sometimes. But despite the fact that some are a little crazy, all the different things get rated, I mean, I think they're here to stay. You know, who thought like 10 years ago you would have like your company on Facebook and things like that? And so social media is part of what's happening, and ratings are in a way part of social media and that experience. And so, you know, you're going to get, you should probably already do, right? Where you go to eat, what movie you want to watch, what book you're going to read, what restaurant you're going to go to. You look up a rating probably for all those things, right? There's even rating systems to rate the rating systems, which I found when I was doing some research for this. It's called Review Skeptic. I don't know if it works, but it's just kind of interesting that they're rating the rating systems now. And then, of course, the Chinese government's taking to a scream. I don't know if anyone's heard of this thing, Sesame Credit. They're basically doing a social media, they're rating their citizens on their behavior. And they all rate each other. And it's just like serious, like people look up your ratings before you go on a date for credit for financial transactions. It's a little frightening. So I don't think it was that bad. But you know, this is all consumer stuff, right? But I think all this is coming to the corporate world, so get ready. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, a quick background on Scout, because we're going to be using an example of Scout data. So I wanted to let you know what we do. So what we do is help you find the best search firm recruiter to fill jobs. So the old way was meeting a lot of headhunters and listening to their spiel, but not knowing if they're any good and not knowing what they're going to charge you, or all your hiring managers are out getting candidates from these recruiters. They don't even know who they are and all that stuff. And I think there's got to be a better way here, and think about how Uber works, where you push a button and their algorithm figures out, okay, what's the professional driver who's best equipped to take you from point A to point B, right? So we do the same thing. You post your job, and we're going to figure out who the professional recruiter is that has the best track record, is best able to fill that job. So it's based on job type, industry, relationships, a whole bunch of different things, a lot of machine learning algorithms. But at the end of the day, these are the recruiters who have the track record based on our data of placements and so forth, who are best equipped to help you fill that job. And we have hundreds of thousands of resumes flowing through the system. Right now, in every one, we're looking at how far they got in the system, did they get to interview, did they get hired, was it a successful hire? So all those things. So we have all that data to match up. So it's kind of cool. And it turns out that like 90% of all the placements, if you look at the search world, third-party search, are made by what we call a specialist. Person who works on the same type of job every time. But there's 1,000 jobs types maybe. There's 50 geographies that are in North America that are critical. There's probably 40 different industries. So you've got this like 5 million point matrix, right? So it's really hard to then go find a recruiter with the best track record for the engineer in Oklahoma, you know, for whatever you want to do, right? So we do all that matching if we have all that data, and make sure you're hooked up with that specialist who's going to actually be able to fill in the position for you. And on the search firm side, it's a two-sided marketplace, so that's the employer side. Search firm side, they have trouble getting contracts with companies, but if they're signed up with Scout and they have good record performance, they're going to get to work on these jobs, and we'll keep sending them the same job type over and over that they're good at. So they get really efficient too. So it's all sort of about the efficiency there. But as you can imagine, if you're now transacting, you're doing business with someone who hadn't met yet, so how does that work, right? Would you buy something on eBay from someone who wasn't rated, for example, right? So you can see how the ratings, the trust, can be a very, very important element of that, a well-functioning marketplace, essentially. So, you know, we talked about everything gets rated. Whoops, the wrong way. There we go. Okay. So So this is a little bit of a teaser of the example I'm going to use as I go through. So what I'm going to try to do is like do a little theory and then tell you about our example and then do the results. But it's basically around this example. So about 2 years ago, we had 2 enterprise customers that we would call with bones, which means you're responsive. So we set the criteria for what responsiveness means in terms of how you react to resumes getting submitted and how you react to questions or whatever you do. Because we thought that responsiveness was really the most important single measurable thing. And what we found out was about 18 months later here, now we have 96 enterprise that have upped their game and now have that responsive bone rating. And the ones that have the rating get results that are 3 or 4 times better. That's 200 to 300% better in terms of time to fill, more qualified candidates, fill rates, and even costs, because they have, by their behavior, motivated all the search firms to work really hard for them. So instead of beating up the vendors to do better, you measure yourself, you improve your behavior, they see that and they respond. So it's a pretty powerful system. And in theory, so why does that work, right? So there's a lot of folks who've written papers in theory on this, but people want to have the best, whatever, recruiter working for them, right? They want information. They want to know, is this product any good? What do other people think about it? Same thing with the search for recruiter. They want to know, what have they done before? Are they good? What's their track record? That information is what everyone's craving to try to figure out, which choice did you make? Everyone has a lot of choices in what they buy or how they recruit. And then the community and the trust, right? So that's another thing that sort of the ratings do, because you don't have that community yet with a new person. How do you start trusting that new person, even though they may be the right specialist for you? You need to kind of get to know them, and that rating builds trust as well. Okay. So in practice, there's a lot of similarities, but also, as you know, people really pay attention to what you measure. And if you take that measurement and you display it, internally and externally, they really pay attention to that metric. So that's pretty cool. Everyone wants to be successful, whether it's pride or just getting ahead. People are competitive, they like to win. And there's not a lot of these things, you don't even know how good you are, but if you can compare the overall marketplace, now you do know. And so you can say, hey, objectively, we need to improve, or we're the best, or whatever. It works really well. So that measurement really enables the improvement. And it provides that information you need to be successful, and we talked about the trust element. So these are the kinds of elements that make something work. And that works in general. I think for any metric you want to look at, even internally, in terms of, it's this classic sales leaderboard or whatever it is, right? That's sort of normal. But now add the other side of the marketplace on that. So not just that, but now there's a feedback mechanism. I guess there is in a sales case too, you get promoted, right? So it's a similar thing in that sense, but we're talking about sort of buyers and sellers, or the search firms responding to the companies. So, the companies who are looking for candidates, they want the best search firms to work for them, so they want to behave, they want to do their best, they want to show that. And then the search firms, they want to be productive, they make hires and so forth, so they want to work with the ones who are responsive and serious about hiring. And are responding to them. They don't want to do a lot of work and they never hear back from somebody or sort of any of that stuff. And what we try to do in Scout also is it's really kind of in the system. We don't want someone sending you 3,000 emails to bug you to do something, because no one wants that. We just want people to respond as they should. And so the search firms see that behavior, and then they work with the ones that are more responsive, and those companies get the better results. And so they're more motivated to keep doing better and so on. So it's a very good positive reinforcement cycle. It obviously can work the other way. If you behave poorly, it's a pretty fast negative reinforcement cycle. And if you let your candidates expire, you never respond, you never say if they were good or bad, people are going to eventually stop sending you candidates, right? That's kind of the way it works. Okay. So, I think giving people the information, right, and an opportunity to change. If it's not too hard, they're going to do it. I mean, sometimes we make it too hard for people to improve, but if you give them a little bit of information and you make it relatively easy for them to improve on that metric, I think they're going to do it. I think we overcomplicate things sometimes and make it so they can't even figure out how to improve. And then you don't get that feedback loop going quite as easily. So how do you get these? How do you get this to work? Number one, simple and clear. So we said we just look at response time to the candidate, like in the sense that a resume gets submitted, how many seconds or minutes does it take before you look at it? And when you forward it to your hiring manager, how much time before they look at it, get back to you? All the responses in the loop, and you're providing that information. That's it. So if the recruiter comes in the morning, they know how to get better. Right? All I got to do is respond when the resume. It's not that hard. Right? They'll do it because it's not that hard. And then the search firm is going to see that they're engaged and they're active and they really want to make a hire, and they're going to put in hours and hours of work to get you a great candidate. That's the way it works. And it has to be easy, accurately measured. One of the things that's nice about Scout, we're integrated into all the ATSs, so we basically date, timestamp everything, every transaction, every click, everything that somebody does. So therefore, it's really clear and easy and indisputable. Not just things like who owns a candidate, but also literally which of the recruiters are doing what in terms of the score, the aggregate company score, the individual score. How long does it take them to react to a candidate being submitted or whatever. So we can record all that. Again, actionable, controllable by the user, and this fast cycle time. So if we try to measure like something like time to fill, which of course is an important metric, but if your recruiter comes in the morning, you think they feel empowered to really move the needle on that time to fill metric. They can like bust their butt, and maybe they'll feel like they'll move this much because either the hiring manager didn't get back to them, or the hiring decision wasn't made, or whatever it was. But they can do their part by getting the candidates moved along with the process, and they can do that every day, and it's controllable. And also, if you think about time to fill, at 60 days, maybe 45 days, whatever it is, right? You're measuring it in a couple of months. So if you think about it, I have an opportunity to improve 6 times a year. How much better can I get? But if I have an opportunity to improve every day, I can really get a lot better. So that's why that fast cycle time is super, super important. But what you pick to measure really has to be significant, and it has to be causal. It can't just be correlated. Like it can't just be related. It actually has to have a cause and effect here, or improving that isn't really going to do any good. And that's where you sort of have to get your data scientists involved and really understand what are the leverage points for the activities that people do in the organization, and what of those leverage points fit this category of really significant, really easy to measure, really controllable, and if we improve on that, we will get kind of the outcome. So I like this quote: 2 kinds of data scientists, those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. There's 2 kinds of audiences, one that gets my jokes, one that doesn't. So some of the common pitfalls are really the opposite of kind of what we sort of just talked about. Stuffing all this crap into a rating that no one can decouple and understand is a big one, difficult to measure. Measuring activity but not a result, so phone calls, emails, that's classic sales stuff. Long cycle times we talked about, not actionable. And I think this is kind of a new concept here, so let's talk about it for a second. Not knowing the scale, right? So this is kind of a fun quote. If you look at the 4-star one, it says, "This driver sucks, fire him slowly." So that's a 4-star. Like what does 4 stars mean? I think they kick off drivers in Uber 3 stars, they kick them off. What does that mean? So what do you rate people? It's like you now have 5 or the boot. So that's not a really good rating system. And frankly, no one really understands what the rating system is anymore, if they ever did. So that's actually a bit of an issue if you have a rating system that you're relying on and no one knows what it is. That's a big mistake. Obviously, Uber is as good as anyone at getting you to do ratings and using ratings and all that, and still no one knows what their system even means, like what a 4 is or a 3 is or whatever. Okay, then you can't mess around too much, you got to try stuff. So we have iterated a bunch of times on our criteria. We didn't get it right the first time, no one will get it right the first time, but you just have to keep watching and understanding, okay, what metrics are moving and what's changing the end result and which ones are the best ones for us to use. So again, let's get back to this example. This, again, results I think are pretty cool. So, not only in 18 months, basically all the employers figured it out that if I behave right, I'm going to get great results. And so they figured it out, and that's pretty dramatic of everyone basically doing what they should do to change. And then what we came up with responsiveness because we felt it really does drive all the key metrics that our customers care about. More qualified candidates, more search firms that they can work with, fill rates, time to fill, how many candidates do they get into the interview process, how many make it to a final interview stage, how many get hired, and of course fees. And the interesting thing is you do all this stuff, actually your fees go down because you got more search firms who want to work with you. Then if they're willing to work with you, they know that, hey, if I work with this company, they're easy to work with, I can move someone through the process. I can charge them 18%. I don't have to charge 25% because I'm more productive. I'm getting a higher fill rate. And then they want to be a star for you because you're a star for them, right? So it works both ways. The other thing that someone mentioned at the cocktail hour or something, that this behavior responsiveness actually is what creates the best candidate experience as well. So it actually can correlate to some of your other metrics that are pretty important. Again, this just getting back to, I think we kind of went through our reinforcement cycle circle specifically to now, this example where you have the employers behaving, the search firm seeing that, reacting, et cetera, right? So that, and then kind of results. So the results that we cite here, and what we're looking at here is, basically just on the whole system-wide, by 600, different companies at different times, and about 1,000 search firms, so a lot of data. And we're looking at the ones that had the rating in orange, and that had the responsive rating, and the ones that did not in the blue. And so the companies that were responsive got way more candidates and way more quality candidates. So way more candidates, 3 times as many candidates, and better quality candidates with 40% higher acceptance rates and 2 times as many interviews. And that's kind of understanding what it is, because if you have more candidates, you can be more selective, actually. So actually the quality is going up even more than that, because if I now have 4 candidates, one of them might decide not to interview because the other 3 are top and I'm going to interview them first. But if you only had 2 candidates, they're all going to get interviewed. So having more candidates really should drive these stats down, but we're actually seeing both of the stats go up, both the number of candidates and the rates, acceptance rates and so forth, and higher rates because of the ratings. Not only that, but, and this is really cool, so they actually got their candidates in literally twice as fast. So partially because they move faster, but also because the search firms see that and they react faster. So it's a compounding effect, and literally, so if it took 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get to interview, it would take a week and a half to get to the interview stage for the ones that have the responsiveness rating. Really that quick. Or if it took 7 days to get 5 candidates, it took 3.5 days to get 5 candidates for the companies that were responsive. That was very cool. And then it's just the same data sort of from the search firm side. So, what they see is they see not only a company that responds to them, but they see way more of their candidates getting accepted at those companies, and way more of those candidates interviewed, and way more of those candidates hired. So they're seeing that, right? The same thing. And they see who's rated, obviously. Everyone sees that stuff. And our customers like it, right? So it's one thing to look at the statistics, but is the gut feel or the customer seeing it and kind of how they feel about things, and they are. So they're getting more candidates they would have never found. Search firms that they would have never been able to work with. Again, more candidates, more ability, hires faster, better hires, over and over, that kind of access. So, and it's really just a result of some pretty simple, figuring out a simple thing to measure and making that really transparent, kind of what that measurement is. So, love to answer questions you all might have about this.
I'm just wondering if you have experience both before and after you started using the ratings, where you can say, now that we're using the ratings, we're getting tons better results.
Yeah, well, we do, but also it was a little while ago,
Okay.
right? So it was 18 months ago, but we do have the comparison of the companies that have the rating versus companies that don't have the rating. We've grown so much; it'd be a little. I mean, we're probably, literally 10,000 times larger than we were 18 months ago, or some crazy number like that. So it'd be a little bit hard to go back and try to compare that. But every metric is better. Just, I can't say it's per se because of the ratings. The fact that because there's so many jobs and geographies, the fact that we're bigger, right? We make more matches. We have about 70% of coverage. We're talking about all the different job types, all the geographies, all the industries. We have enough recruiters to work on that for 70% of the jobs. There's some pretty crazy jobs.
Yeah.
In fact, we play a game at our company meetings called Guess the Real Job. And so the one that fooled everyone the most was rodent surgeon. So it really was a rodent surgeon job that we filled on Scout.
It wasn't an exterminator or something else.
How many recruiting agencies are in your database you're pulling from, and about how many candidates are we talking about in cycle through this time frame?
Yeah, so it's about 10,000 recruiters on the system. We're sort of like about 100,000 candidates a month-ish range.
Okay.
And are big recruiting firms in your database, or are these all independent?
Yeah, I know we have some big ones. So we have Kelly and Randstad and blah, blah, blah. We also have, mom and pop shops up to, mid-size, whatever.
But not like the big executive recruiting firms like Korn Ferry and...
We have all of them except that's retained search. So we don't do retained search on our platform, but
Okay.
any of the ones that do contingent search,
Okay,
the big ones are pretty much on.
got it.
Is this just for the U.S. or global?
So right now we're just in North America, and next year we'll be in Europe, and then probably global 2019. And because we have to build, remember, it's not just like get the language figured out and the rules and go. We have to like build a marketplace, right? So there's a big effort required to make sure that when a company comes on, they have jobs, we have all the recruiters lined up to work on them and so forth. So it's a little more methodical about it.
Are there any data protection issues in the way that you're processing a person's data without their knowledge?
Well, no, they're all consented. First of all the candidates that go through, the search firms sign a consent that they have validated and have authority. You have to like check a box and say, I've had the candidate's permission to send them through. And then, but we don't handle any of the hiring decision or payroll or any, like, we're creating that marketplace. And we do have all sorts of kind of minimum requirements on insurance and all that stuff to be on the marketplace you have to have. So we don't, there's no issues with that. It's no different than any other recruiting, that's for sure. And we have excellent data security. So basically been approved by the world's largest banks and pharma companies, connected right into their networks and databases. It's actually a pretty interesting thing where, AWS and some of the technologies out today where a small company can get to the state of having world-class security in a fairly short time with some good hires. But that infrastructure, is kind of there. And so we really, we don't have any issues with that. Okay, well, thanks very much. Appreciate you all being here.
Thank you.